All right, welcome back. It's part B. We are here. It's Typology Gifts. We're here with Vedant, and we were
Hello.
during the break. We were just talking about video games a little bit, and I interrupted you because I was like, "Well, I think the viewers will want to hear what types of video games you
Sure.
play." So you mentioned Super Meat Boy. You mentioned Rocket League, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What else? What else are you playing right
I
now?
so I got this little Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you're
Hmm.
familiar with those.
Hmm.
They're these little tiny computers.
Yeah, yeah.
And I put a bunch of old school games on there. So
Nice.
the first Zelda for the
Hmm.
Nintendo 64, I forgot what it was called.
Ocarina of Time.
And I think it was even maybe before that.
Oh, you
But
mean
whatever,
you mean the
it's awesome.
OG Zelda, like the NES Zelda?
You're like OG. Yeah, NES.
Ah.
Yeah, SNES. Exactly, yeah.
Oh,
So
or SNES.
SNES.
That's not the first. That's the third Zelda, I guess. That's
Oh, okay.
Link to the Past.
Link to the Past.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I love that game so
Oh yeah,
much.
yeah. It's a great game.
Um, it's the best. And yeah, those three mainly. And then used to play like Valorant when it was like when that was fun.
Is it not
But
fun?
I
Is it not fun anymore?
so
I've just been reading up on.
it's great. I mean, it's definitely cool. It's a really fun game, but I don't play I don't have that many friends who play the game, so it's not that I don't really play it.
Is it a game?
But yeah,
Not to derail off of typology too much. We don't want to lose
all
people.
good.
But is it a game best played with people you know, or is it something? Is that why you're saying like you have to kind of know somebody and go into it playing it together like that?
It's definitely better. It's definitely better to play with someone because you have all these strategies that you need to pull off, and
Hmm.
if you don't know anybody on the team or it's like they don't have their mics on, it's a pain in
I
the ass,
see.
you know.
I see. I see.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting.
But it's a cool game. It's a fun game. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I've been reading good
Yeah,
things about it. I don't know, and it got really popular here recently. So,
it
um,
did. Yeah, it did.
I guess I'll have to look into it. Are you more of a like an
Yeah, it's free.
action game? Oh, is it free to play?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
yeah.
Well, so are you more of an action type of gamer?
Um, I I like technicals, so I like
Mhm.
CS:GO a lot because there's you got to be pretty good at that game,
Mhm.
and I like Rocket League because the same thing. Like you got to be pretty technical. Like
Mhm.
just I like challenging games, like whatever that is. So Super Meat Boy is so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's fun. It's like a good time. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's good.
yeah.
Good
I
stuff.
like being skilled at the game. That's cool.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
it's all about self improvement, I guess, right?
Yeah. Almost. Yeah. Yeah. I guess you say that.
What about story games? Do you play story games much?
Yeah. I don't focus too much on the story part. I
Mhm.
would say okay, Halo. I used to play a lot of Halo. It
Mhm.
has such a beautiful story, but I
Mhm.
could never really pay attention. You know,
Right.
I get the gist, but moment to moment,
Mhm.
I can't really. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you we're about little under three, a little under 4 minutes into part B. I'm gonna tell you what.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to hear what type or types you came into the call um, thinking you were, and then I'll tell you
Okay.
what type I thought you were, and you can watch, the video to see that I didn't just like make that up like right when I said it. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this stuff. So lay it on me. What's the story around your personality type and what your own
Sure.
reflection has revealed so far?
So, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the whole, I know the Myers Briggs cognitive function realm is pretty vast. I don't know a lot about it,
Hmm.
but I did take like a 16 personalities
Hmm.
test, and
Hmm.
that's kind of what I'm basing this off of.
Sure.
So, I took my first test. I only took it twice. Like, first time I took it was like 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and I was an ENFP.
Hmm.
And then this year I took it like a month ago. I was also an ENFP. So,
Interesting.
I think I'm an ENFP. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
My guess is very different than that actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Damn. Okay. All right. Let's
Um,
hear it.
well, but now I want to talk about ENFP a little bit, but I don't know. Actually, no, I don't know. We will I will tell you what type I think you are, and then we'll talk about that versus ENFP, and
Sure.
let's see if we can figure this out together. Um,
Okay.
so the first thing I'll mention is that um, I get a strong sense of introverted thinking from you, kind of, which I don't know if you know how well do you know
Okay.
the cognitive function stuff.
None at all. Honest. That'd be real.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um. Well, introverted thinking is a cognitive function that sort of relates to your own sense of internal logic. Sort of constructing your own logic. It's very kind of obsessed with research and very knowledge hungry kind of mode of being or mode of thinking, kind of. Um,
Okay.
and like it's sort of the thing that motivates you to do your own research and your own homework and like formulate your own theories about things. Um,
Sure.
and sort of the opposing one, extroverted thinking, being more like understanding protocols and understanding what what the external world of logic is, and then working within it and kind of building on top of it and leveraging it. Um,
That's interesting.
and people who use a lot of extroverted thinking tend to be very goal oriented because um, there's like always an outcome uh, of the protocol. There's a step by step
Gotcha.
kind of to the protocol. Um, so if you can think of it this way, the introverted thinkers would be over here inventing the wheel, and the extroverted thinkers would be over here um, using the wheel to accomplish things.
Gotcha.
If
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Completely.
so to me, you seem more like the inventing the wheel kind of person because you're building a lot of things
Mhm.
and like coming up with a lot of
Yeah.
things and um, but but so I will say that there are two cognitive functions. I was thinking about this while I was making my drink. There were two cognitive functions I can think of that are very seem that I seem to notice a lot of in people who do programming.
Okay.
One is introverted thinking, and the other one is extroverted intuition, and oftentimes it's both of them together. So
Gotcha.
a lot of programmers I know are like INTPs, ENTPs, things like that.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
but but you also see programmers who may use extroverted intuition like ENFPs, but not introverted thinking, and then other programmers who might use a lot of introverted thinking, but not a lot of extroverted intuition like ISTPs. So
Okay.
so like I have a really good friend who's an ENFP programmer. And he's
Mm.
very like he does things very differently from how I do. And I'm not a programmer, but like I've seen the way he works, and he's very
Sure.
improvisational in the way he works. He doesn't really know kind of what he's building until he's sort of built it,
Okay.
or like has gotten to some point. It might just get to some point and abandon it. Um,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think that when I listen to how you describe the way you do your projects,
Mhm.
it doesn't sound quite that way. It sounds more like you have an idea for a project and then you pursue that
Right.
and then you get a sense for whether it's going to be too big or you're starting to lose interest, and then it's just like, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to work on something else. And that to
Right.
me sounds like the way somebody it doesn't sound like extroverted intuition to me. It sounds like introverted thinking and introverted intuition, because it's like
Interesting.
you're having some kind of like foresight about what you're about to do, and then you're realizing,
Yeah.
or like strong introverted thinking preference means curiosity. Really, is like you're going to be like, am I interested in, is this really is this scratch my curiosity itch to just learn something new
Okay.
or not, and if it's not, then it's like, well, maybe I'm gonna
Right.
focus on something
Stop
else.
working.
Right. Whereas I think
Gotcha.
extroverted intuition is kind of like, well, this is interesting. Well, that's interesting, and this is interesting, and it's sort of just led by what's kind of interesting in that moment, and continues to move down the path of what's interesting, as opposed to
Right.
foreseeing what the outcome is going to be, which is what people who's introverted intuition do a lot of. So, um,
That's so interesting. That's very interesting because I feel like in situations I do like there are some situations where like I'll think like, damn, this one field is interesting.
mhm,
This one topic is interesting. I want to like make something for it.
mhm,
Well, but on the flip side, I would think like, okay, here's a problem or here's like a thing, and I know what I need to build to solve the problem.
mhm,
You know,
mhm,
it's interesting because like in different occasions, I'll maybe flip flop on like my my work style, let's say, or like how I
mhm,
think of these ideas.
mhm, mhm.
You know?
I think the other thing I noticed too is people who prefer extroverted intuition talk a lot. um,
Yeah. Okay.
because they have to have their thoughts out in the open where they can listen to them
Yeah.
themselves and
Right.
improvise from that.
That's true. I do gotta do that then.
You do got what?
I do have to do that sometimes. Like it's hard for me to think like, okay, this is exactly what I need to say. Maybe I'll have like an idea, a roadmap,
Hmm.
but I won't. I'll have to say it out loud so then I can, think about the next thing I got to say. Does
Hmm. Hmm.
that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, but to me, you don't seem like an extroverted intuitive as much because the
Okay.
but I mean, you might decide that you are. I mean, I don't know, but I get much more introverted intuitive vibes from you,
Okay.
and that's
Okay.
has to do with like how succinct you are. People who prefer
Okay.
introverted intuition are very much more succinct in their
Okay.
thoughts and their way because they're summarizing, they're like synthesizing and like narrowing down
Gotcha. Gotcha.
on what the idea means.
Hmm.
What do you think? Do you see that in yourself, or is that just me? Am I projecting something on you, or do you see that in yourself?
I mean,
And am I seeing what you're
it's
seeing?
very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can see how that is could be true too. Like that's what's hard. I think it's like it's hard for me to give a definitive answer because
Hmm.
maybe you're right. Like maybe I have a different perception of myself than other people have of me. So I don't know what's true, but I would say with talking, I'm I'm definitely a little bit more like improvisational. Let's say so.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, like if I gotta speak at some event, if I
Hmm.
have to do a presentation, I'll like maybe list down the high level topics
Hmm.
and I'll just talk about this. Like, but I'll make up what I'm saying on the spot almost sometimes.
Right, right, right.
Um, no, is that what you mean
Well,
by
um,
like synthesizing?
mm, um, well, I think that, uh, yeah, I think it is
Okay.
because imagine it like because you can still be that kind of way and still be improvisational is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
I guess there's really two different ways that I can think of that you could be improvisational in the MBTI sense because you have these perceiving types, right? There's perceiving types that are improvisational and
Okay.
as they're called, the P types.
All right.
But then you have introverted intuitives among those types, and you have extroverted intuitives among those types. So what's happening here? How do you have like one group that's improvisational with using extroverted intuition, and one group that's improvisational using introverted intuition? And I think
Sure.
the way I've seen it is, or the way I've observed it, anyways, is extroverted intuitives are sort of finding their way as they go entirely, and
Mm.
introverted intuitives are uh, they're like envisioning kind of the next piece of the puzzle, and then and then they're going to the next one. It's so I mean that's
Okay.
so hard to visualize, but it's like introverted intuitives are like this. They're like bink, 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 and then extroverted intuitives are like
Sure.
all over the place. Um,
Okay.
but both can be improvising, you know. It's
Yeah.
but it's like introverted intuitives, they'll come to the situation and sort of say, okay, what's the situation, and they'll figure that out, and then they'll take that and go to the next piece, and they're like, okay, now
Okay.
what's here, and they'll go to the next piece. Whereas extroverted
Yeah, I can see how
intuitives,
that's true.
you know, and extroverted intuitives are like
Yeah.
doing a dance, kind of, you know,
Yeah.
to get through
Okay.
it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Sure.
So, so maybe that'll give you a hint that I think you might be a perceiving type, uh, one of the P
Okay.
types. Um, but I still think I think you prefer introverted intuition is my theory, anyways. So I don't know if you know I don't know how well you know the types of what you think you know what type I think you might be. Do you have any idea?
I I I'm pretty novice, man. I'm gonna be
Okay,
honest. I
okay,
don't know a lot.
all right, all right.
I don't know a lot.
So,
Like, I still don't even know like what each letter really means. I have to look at the character
yeah,
on
yeah,
16
yeah.
personalities.
Okay,
You know,
yeah,
like I have to be like, okay, a campaigner. I know it's an ENFP.
yeah. Right.
The scientist person. I know that's like a logistician or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. So you're probably a
Yeah,
few years away from like staring at these like concepts enough to let it sink into your head. And trust me, and that took me a long
exactly.
time too to get it all kind of
Yeah,
straightened in my head. Um,
right.
so I'll tell you what type I think you are, and then I'll try to explain why I think you're that type, and then we can
Okay.
debate, I guess. Um,
All
so
right.
the type I landed on was ISTP actually, which I know is
Okay. That's
which is
interesting.
very different than ENFP.
Wait, I gotta look.
um,
I gotta look up the character. Give me a second.
no,
ISTP.
well, don't look on 16 personalities, but um,
Oh,
16 personalities
that's
is
not a.
considered a bit reductionist, and maybe
Oh, really? It's like
yeah,
newbie.
it is considered kind of a starting point.
Okay.
Yeah, in the MBTI community,
Gotcha.
it doesn't get a lot of
Oh, I
respect
didn't know that.
from
Oh,
people
no way.
yeah, from people who do a lot of it, because actually it's modeled a little more like ocean, from what I understand. Are you familiar with that? Do you know what
Okay.
ocean is?
No, no. I'm assuming it's like another
It's
like
a just it's yeah
school of
it's a more
psychology.
it's a more scientific approach apparently, but it's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion. Uh, A is
Gotcha.
N is neuroticism. A is agreeableness. So there's debate as to
See,
how
it's interesting.
yeah
It's interesting that you say I because like you know, I love talking to people. You know,
yeah no
and
I but I'm an introvert and
that's
I
interesting.
do as well. So that's the other
Cool.
thing.
Okay.
That's the other thing is the cognitive function stuff doesn't really directly correlate, I don't think, to whether to the traditional kind of understanding of introversion and extroversion. Um,
Oh, gotcha.
I think it has more to do with whether you whether you turn inwardly more often or outwardly to make sense of the world, kind of. And
Okay.
the other thing about it is I've noticed is that some personality types seem to approach the world in ways that don't seem immediately obvious based on knowing what that type is called.
Okay.
So, for example, an ISTP um, interacts with the world a lot because they use a lot of extroverted sensing, um, which may make them will be the kind of thing that instigates you wanting to be around people a lot or be out in the world a lot or doing a lot of things, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Uh, whereas I think real extroverts, I say real like more extroverted people, um,
Sure.
really need to interact and interplay with the external world to get anything out of it. Um,
Hmm.
so
Interesting.
yeah, so ISTPs, they prefer introverted thinking first of all, which is what I was saying is that strong sense of internal logic, and but also really I picked up a lot of like extroverted feeling from you, which is I don't know how familiar you are with all these different things I'm saying, so you might.
When you say it, I remember something, but I don't
Okay.
remember exactly. You know.
Yeah. So it might be like you might need to rewatch the video and like go look stuff up while you rewatch it,
Yeah,
pause it or whatever.
that's probably what I'll do. Yeah.
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 But extroverted feeling is that kind of outward like introverted feelers are like here's if I had to use a metaphor, I've thought of this one. It was like if you have this like bottle of paint that was like
Okay.
sparkly and purple and a very unique shade. That's an introverted feeler
All right.
that's like I have my own feelings about things and it's very unique, like we talked about at the beginning of this call. And then
Sure.
extroverted feelers are almost like I have an empty vessel, and everyone around me comes and pours a little bit into mine, and I just end up with this muddy gray mess.
Oh, that's very
But I
interesting.
know what
Okay.
everyone else's is, you know. Um,
I like the analogy. That's
yeah,
cool. Okay.
yeah, and so
I got it.
I think that wistfulness that you had at the beginning a little bit about that uniqueness might have been sort of a little bit
Yeah.
like maybe envy of what the introverted feelers have, which is
So,
this
okay, great. That's cool.
individuality, you know, um,
Yeah.
this individual sense of like and dislike, and extroverted feelers have a much better handle on other people.
Mm.
And I think you that's why I got the like kind of the idea that maybe you might be preferring extroverted feeling because I think you probably do pretty well understanding other people's feelings, whether to engage or not to engage. But then
Yeah.
also your desire to not necessarily get involved so much is something I see a lot in people who prefer extroverted feeling, but kind of in a lower degree. So
Just
higher introverted thinking users prefer extroverted feeling less, and that means they will prefer
okay. Gotcha.
they will know that there's conflict and they will know that there's something unsettling, but they won't necessarily want to
Sure.
engage in it unless they have to,
Hmm.
unless it's needed to get to kind of keep the peace. Um,
Gotcha.
whereas intro
Cool. I think
yeah.
that your analysis is pretty spot on. I think that is true. Like, I mean, what you said about like sort of envy of like uniqueness, I think that is true. Like, it is like that's something that's cool to me. It's like, damn, this person's pretty unique. At the same time, I do maybe like have a grasp at like, okay, this is how people are feeling about a situation or about me or something.
Hmm.
I think I'm good at that. So
Hmm.
that is true.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the thing I've noticed about introverted feelers is they can often be so swept up in their own feelings about situations that it kind of blindsides them a little bit to what the feelings of other people are actually going on. Like they can simulate that in their
Sure.
own like, well, I feel this way, therefore that person must feel that way, but they're not they're kind of calculating, not necessarily feeling
Right.
not necessarily really feeling what the other person's feeling in the same sense where you might walk in
Gotcha.
and know the temperature of the room like right away, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
So so that's what makes me think that you prefer extroverted feeling, introverted thinking. The other thing is you've mentioned a number of like extroverted sensing kind of things that you but you're not you know, like if you were like an ESTP or something, then you might be have a very strong adeptness to physical activities, um,
Gotcha. Okay.
and you don't necessarily you're like in that world, but not that's not your that's not your necessarily your highest skill.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that.
So the other ones, extroverted intuition, introverted sensing, I think you speak in generalities and in truths like using introverted intuition a lot, which is different than extroverted intuitives are. Honestly, they're fun. In my opinion, they're funnier. I
Okay.
mean, I'm not that funny
All right.
either. I don't think that. I just mean extroverted intuitives just come up with the most random weird shit. Like that's just all I can say is that
Yeah,
they're just these
it's
people.
true.
You know what they're like, and you're probably jealous of them, just like I'm jealous of them. I'm jealous of that amazing ability that those people have to just riff and come up with the craziest stuff. Um,
Well, that's interesting. That is interesting. I've been told that that's something that I do a lot. Like, I'll be rambly about certain topics, or like
yeah.
I'll just make up random stuff. You know?
Well, but let me ask you this: how much physical comedy would you say that you do? So this would be like voices. This would be like faces. Um,
Good question. I do that a lot. I
v-
think that's like kind of my go-to if I want to make someone laugh. I'll do
yeah.
like maybe like a impersonation, or
Uh-huh.
like I like do something. I like make a
Exaggeration.
funny sound, or
Sure.
yeah,
And
exact
and
exaggeration.
yeah. So that's how extroverted sensors get the laugh. I've seen,
Oh, okay,
and that's how I get the laugh too.
cool.
Honestly,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you have a strong sense of sensing. You have a strong sense of like, you know, what somebody's voice sounds like,
right, 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 right,
what I need to do with my face to get. I might just make a face
right. Their
to my
mannerisms
kids.
or something.
Yeah, mannerisms, body motion, body language, something like that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's all very extroverted sensing kind of thing.
cool.
Extroverted intuition will be funny by saying really weird,
Like a joke, good joke
randomly
or
connected,
something.
yeah, good joke, or just
Yeah,
come up with some idea that's in their head is connected, but to everyone else is
that's very true.
unexpected.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Like I'm thinking of like famous comedians are
Hmm.
not, they don't usually do the voice or the mannerisms. They make the funny joke,
Right, but
like think of the good idea.
there's some comedians like Jim Carrey though that are very physical
Yes, exactly.
comedians, and I think
Yeah, Jim Carrey would be like that.
and he's using a lot of extroverted sensing. Like he's very physical. He's very emotive and like voices and things like that. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. So I
True.
think
Okay.
you would be
Thanks.
more on on that side. So it's not to say that you're not
Yeah.
funny or anything like that, but
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
it's just
I know exactly
how
what
do you
you're
get the
saying.
joke, right? How do you get the laugh?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So and then the other thing I was thinking about was extroverted thinking. Extroverted thinkers are well. I was able to kind of rule out a lot of the. I think ENFPs by the way use extroverted thinking. I don't think that I know that, and
Okay.
they do really well in situations where there's guidelines to work within, frameworks to work
Interesting.
within, because that gives them the sort of freedom to improvise now at that point, whereas introverted thinkers they want to do it their own way. They want to learn it themselves and figure it out themselves. And so you strike me as more of the latter type than the former
Yeah,
type.
I think that's true.
Because what you're doing with your family, where you're like, well, you have a problem and I'm going to invent something that solves that problem, is you're you're inventing the wheel, so to speak. Like you're like, here's this oddly shaped problem and I'm going to create something over here that fits into this very specific
Yeah, I think that's
situation.
true. I think that is very true.
So that requires foresight and like understanding and the shape of that problem and and then like
Yeah,
building
that's
the
that's very
exact
true.
thing that's going to fit into that. Um, So it's not as improvisational as much as it is seeing a certain kind of outcome, and then you might have to improvise to get there, but like the point is you know where you're headed with it, and you're really making something
Sure.
very specific, very unique to get there. So
Yeah.
the uniqueness for you is what you're making, that's where you could look at
Right.
it as like maybe you might not feel that you're as unique as somebody who uh, is just a weird unique person, but like I think people um, who do what you do probably will create things that other people would look at and say, "Wow, that's really unique. Like that's really
Sure.
unusual," or that solves a very
Okay.
specific problem. So
Right.
the proof of your pudding is probably going to be in the work that you do.
Yeah.
So
That
it's
that's true. That feels true, definitely. You know.
and that doesn't mean you're not unique.
No,
So it
I have a
just means
question.
you're probably envious of this kind of uniqueness, and maybe someone else looks at you and says that
Absolutely.
they're
Yeah.
envious of your kind of uniqueness.
Absolutely.
You know?
I have like maybe a follow-up question or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Um, so like when I think of ideas,
Hmm.
you know, like usually it's to solve a problem, but now like sometimes I'll think of like a product, let's say,
Hmm.
like an app that'll help a population. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
is that also the same thing? Like, would you consider that the same thing? Like, it's not necessarily like to to solve like a specific type of problem. It's to like maybe provide value to like a large number of people who share like I guess maybe share a problem or something.
I mean, I think any type could try to do that.
Okay.
I think what makes a difference is whatever type you are is probably going to mean that you have these kinds of tools in the toolbox. Well, first of all,
Gotcha.
you have these kinds of tools in the toolbox that have given you the motivation to do it at all in the first place. So like
Mhm. Okay.
maybe there's another person that wants to solve that same problem but for completely different reasons than you do. Um,
Interesting.
and then when
Okay.
you actually go to try to solve the problem, you have a certain set of tools in your toolbox that you're going to use to try to solve the problem. So there might be all 15 other types of people trying to solve the same exact kind of problem you're trying to solve,
Okay.
but all 15 of them are
Yeah.
all doing it differently to get there because they have different equipment.
Gotcha. All right. That makes sense. Makes sense.
But you will see a
Cool.
concentration of certain kinds of types in certain fields just because
Okay.
it takes a certain kind of equipment. You have to be good at certain kinds of things to be good at being able to solve certain kinds of problems. Some kinds of problems require
Right.
a lot of physical dexterity. Some
Okay.
problems require a lot of creative problem solving. Some kind of problems require not like knowing a large body of existing knowledge. Um, so
Sure. Sure. Sure.
so it really depends, and how you go about
Yeah.
solving that problem. If you were an extroverted thinker, you might go about trying to solve that problem by by creating a step-by-step process and then going and finding
Sure.
proven techniques and then using those proven techniques and going and
Right.
whereas if you're an introverted thinker, you might look at the problem and say, well, that's a uniquely shaped hole. I'm going to devise a uniquely shaped key to fit into that hole. And
I
and
would say that's true. That's definitely true.
yeah,
You know.
so maybe both people will solve the problem, but very differently in kind of their execution to get there.
Yeah. Sure. Cool. So this is. Can you repeat the acronym again? Or is it ISTP?
ISTP, which is Introverted
Cool.
Sensing, Thinking, Perceiving.
Okay. Cool.
And
Awesome.
yeah. So I guess you'll just have to look at it and let me know in the comments, or if you want to message me,
Yeah.
email me, as you do like more research and things like that. Um,
Yeah.
ENFPs can be pretty introverted too, by the way. So
Okay.
yeah, and they're among the more introverted types actually, I think, of extroverts.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting.
hmm
And,
uh,
I
one
got some questions
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. Okay, let's do it. We're at
Just
the
some
ask.
fun ones. Some
Yeah,
fun
go ahead.
ones.
Go ahead. Yep. Ask me anything.
What? So what are like? in theory, obviously this is a pretty it is kind of too boxy of a question, but like in theory, who would my friends be? Who are the people that I get along with?
Let's see here. I think that ISTPs, if you are an okay, if you're an ISTP, you're gonna get along best with people who don't stir up a ton of drama.
Okay.
So if they are causing a lot of dramatic situations, I've noticed ISTPs are not a fan of that. um, I think ISTPs also they they like to keep it low key a lot of times. Um, so but now if you're an ENFP, see, I don't think you're dramatic enough to be an ENFP, honestly. I think ENFPs are pretty
Yeah, I try to stay away from being dramatic.
yeah, ENFPs are pretty dramatic people. They like that actually. They like the drama kind of. They like to be part of the drama. So
Okay.
uh, so that's even like the lone wolf ones I've noticed because ENFPs can be pretty lone wolf kind of people. Strangely enough,
Oh, that's interesting.
they'll still there's something about drama that they like still. You know what I mean? Um,
Sure.
so uh, I think ISTPs are pretty versatile. I think they can
Okay, gotcha.
I think they can find their way into a lot of different kinds of friendships because of their kind of like calm or cool demeanor, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, just and then I think also that just the TP types in general don't really suffer fools too well. So if somebody's being an idiot, you might be not too happy around that kind of person. I don't know.
Right.
You can
Right.
you can tell me if that's the case. You haven't told me. We haven't talked
I
about
think
that.
that is true.
Okay.
Like I sometimes I'll get I probably so just to touch on like the drama thing.
Yeah.
I'll get kind of not frustrated. I'll be like, but like I'll be confused. Like I'll be like, why? Like why are they? Why is this such a big deal? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
but that's not to say like I won't understand it. So like,
Right.
I've been in situations where like, my family members
hmm
have been dramatic, and not you know
But it,
whatever.
but
Um,
I have not really known an ISTP to be like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
just not that
exactly.
kind of
Right.
person.
I try to avoid that. Try to
Right.
avoid that.
Right. So
You
immediately
know.
when you and I started talking, I was like, this guy's a pretty chill guy. You know what I mean? And it's not.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
not.
Cool.
I'm
That's
not.
good to know.
I'm not trying to like make fun of ENFPs, by the way, because I have some very close friends who are ENFPs. But I just know that they kind of move from drama to drama. Is what it feels like, kind of. Um,
Okay. Interesting.
their life is a story. It's a story
Right.
that's unfolding, and it's a drama.
That's true. That is true. Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully,
Sorry, Dan. Give me 1 second. I think my headphones died. Can I just check?
no worries.
Okay. Hello.
Yes. You hear me all right?
Okay. Yeah, it's still okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
So what
We're
else
good.
what else you got? Hit me with more questions that you can think of.
All right. So, what's like maybe a weakness that I should look out for in myself, or maybe something that like I should be weary of?
Mm, this is the thing. Like I think ISTPs, if you are an ISTP, they're so versatile that they can kind of navigate their way through some of the most difficult, complex life scenarios because
Okay, interesting.
have the strong extroverted sensing, so they can just
Sure.
plow their way through all of the problems, and they're logical enough to see the situation for whatever, and they're using introverted intuition, so they can kind of read between the lines too. So I think I think we should all. I think the rest of the types could strive to be more like ISTPs in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, um,
Okay. Okay.
um, so I guess really I guess what you could work on perhaps is working on improving your introverted intuition, working on your third eye, and like getting to more of a point where you can see further ahead in life and um,
Mm,
anticipate things a lot sooner. Um,
that's true. That I do struggle with that.
and
Like far planning far ahead and stuff.
mhm, mhm. But I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, you have the equipment to do it well. It's just, it's something that you get better at the older you get and the more you do it and stuff.
that's interesting. Cool.
But
Very
otherwise, I
cool.
don't know.
All right.
I mean, I think, like I said, I think ISTPs generally seem to be pretty balanced kind of people. Um,
Okay.
they annoy the other types the least, I think, among many of the other
Good.
types.
That's good to. That's definitely good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Like by the way, all of your silent protagonists in video games, all those silent protagonists, they're all ISTPs. Just that's like
Oh, nice.
Cloud,
That's
Chrono,
sweet.
like all the yeah. Just
Oh, okay.
in case you were curious.
Cool. 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 All right. Well, no, it's good to know. Like, well, why? So why is like the 16 personalities test? Why is it so like I mean, it sounds like it is could be pretty inaccurate or
Well,
maybe too limiting.
I it's an interesting place to start, kind of to get you interested in
Yeah.
what it is and to start to tell you things about it. And I'm not necessarily going to say it's wrong. It's more like tests themselves are flawed
Mm,
out of the gate, uh, and it's I think people look at how slick and polished 16 personalities is, and then they look at their test
right.
result, how slick and polished their test results are, and they take that as an indicator that that must be right. Um, and
Sure.
that's not
That's
necessarily
a good point.
that's not necessarily the case. So
Yeah.
so I would just encourage people who have taken those tests to continue to question, continue to do the research and think about it and look into
Yeah.
other things just to double check, because if I was like trying to gauge how hard you can kick, I could ask you questions
Right.
about I could ask you questions. I could be like, can you
Sure.
kick through a brick? Can you kick through a plank of wood? I could ask you all these questions,
Right.
or you could actually go do it,
Yeah.
and then I could just measure what
That's
you
right.
did, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the thing about talking to somebody is you can really poke at their brain a little bit and start to ask all kinds of follow-up questions and like really try to
100%. I
get a
completely agree.
sense. Yeah. So it
Because when I was taking the test, when I was taking the test online, it just felt like it's so easy to be biased. It's so easy to be like, this is the type of person I want to be, so this is how I'm going to answer
right.
this question.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's true. That's true.
Whereas like a conversation, like
Mhm.
you can you can probably tell me more honestly, like about myself than I can sometimes about myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, because you're
Um,
on the inside
in some
looking out.
situations,
Mhm.
right? Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
trying to figure out my type took me a couple years.
yeah,
So
I'm sure that's a big problem. That's hard. Like,
mhm.
it's easy for us because we can ask you, but you you have to
Right,
figure it out.
right,
You know,
right.
that's
S-
true. Right.
so having other people to bounce it off of is useful. Or watching videos like
Yeah,
this
100%.
probably because you can see what my rationale is when I talk to somebody else, and then you can
Yeah,
go, am
exactly.
I like that? So
Exactly.
watching YouTube
Okay.
videos really helped me a lot because I could
Yeah,
observe.
there's a lot of videos.
Hmm.
There's a lot of resources online, like for something that's nowadays. So this is like the tip of the iceberg for me. This episode.
Yeah, I mean
See how far see how
the
far I
good news
explore.
is there's a lot of interesting content out there, so you can really
Yeah,
just dig in and
exactly.
find
Exactly.
what's
Has
interesting.
another ISTP come on your show?
Hmm. Yes.
Cool. I'll
Uh,
watch that.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Let me tell you which one it is. Uh, he's actually a good friend of mine.
I'm gonna write this down. So
Actually,
I don't forget this
funny
when I
enough,
tell you.
he thought he was an ENFP as well. He thought he well,
Wow.
he thought he
Maybe he
was
took the test.
yeah, he thought he was either an ENFP or an INFJ. So, and then
Wow.
I got through typing and I was like, dude, I don't think you're either of those. Um,
That's interesting. Okay.
but the reason is, well, first of all, this has just been my observation of ISTPs is ISTPs are kind of damn mysterious. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like
Oh, cool. Cool. Sweet.
well, yeah, because they're very unassuming kind of people, but like have a lot going on. So
Okay.
so it can be hard to like some personality types have very pronounced characteristics that are like
Sure. Sure.
in your face kind of. And
Yeah.
I my observation of ISTPs is that they're just very low key kind of people, you know. So
Sure. Sure.
okay, so the one to look for is it's number 6. It says
Number 6.
INFJ or ENFP, and that's my friend Kevin. Um,
Okay. Cool.
spoiler,
Cool.
I think he's an
I'm
ISTP.
writing this down.
But he actually once you know he wasn't super knowledgeable about this either, and then once we started to really talk about it and dig into it, he started to
Yeah.
think that maybe he was as well. Hopefully, I didn't just talk him into that, but it certainly was. We definitely did do the whole process of trying to figure that out together. So
Right. Yeah. I think I'm gonna do after this is probably like first thing I'm gonna do is tell my friends, and then after that I'm gonna I'm gonna do some research, just to see
yeah, yeah,
see more about this type.
right, and you may or may not agree with it. So I mean, don't feel like you're gonna hurt
Sure.
my
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
feelings if you're. It's all
No,
about
I'm sure. I'm
getting
sure.
getting closer, to
Yeah,
understand.
exactly. I was gonna treat this as like a science experiment, anyways. Like, let's see what I get and go from there.
Yeah.
Thought it would just be fun. I was literally so convinced that at the end of this you're gonna say ENFP, 100%. But
Really?
I'm glad to know that there's a different outcome. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I took the test twice,
Uh-huh.
and it said ENFP, so I was like, probably right.
You took the
But it's cool. It's cool.
same test twice? Is that what it was?
Yeah, the 16 personalities, like
So
that that one,
take about a take about 4 or 5
a dozen.
other ones. Yeah, maybe a dozen. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Just take a bunch of
Are
different.
there other ones?
Oh, there are plenty of other ones. Yeah, I mean, there's just
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I'll hit you up about some links because that would be cool. I'd be interested
Actually,
in that.
if you go to typologygifts.com and you look
Oh,
at
your website.
yeah, if you go to the website and then there's a link that says what's my type, and then
Oh, cool.
I've linked to a bunch of different tests with different
Nice.
explanations.
All right.
So
You sell merch, right?
I don't sell it. It's an affiliate site. So
Oh, cool.
it's like basically free to use. I just did the research, figured out products I think each type would like, and then
I see it.
if you buy it off of Amazon, then I get a little kickback. That's all. So it costs nothing to use.
Oh, gotcha. It's like referral links and
Yeah, it's
stuff.
referrals. So it basically by buying it through the website, you're giving me a kickback uh,
Cool.
for finding the product for you. That's all.
Okay, nice. This is great. This is awesome.
Free to use.
I might, for my girlfriend, I think she'd like something like that.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
All right, what else? You got any
Cool.
other
Cool,
questions?
man. I don't have much. I'm sure that something will come to me after
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do a little debriefing with myself and my
Mhm.
friends.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So maybe write it in the comments or I'll message you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but I don't think I have much. You have any more questions for me? I don't have
Nope.
anything.
Nope. I just want to make sure you're happy with how we ended up here, and yeah, I guess you've got stuff to think about now, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's cool.
cool.
Very cool. I'm going to watch episode 6 again. So
All
the
right.
one with your friend. That should be informative.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Vedant. Have a good
All right.
rest of your evening. And
All right. No problem, man. You too.
to our friends at home, please like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. If you want to be typed, you can do the same thing Vedant did. You can book some time on my calendar, and we'll do one of these videos. I'll make a video out of it. You'll get on my channel. So feel free to do that, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot. Peace out, man. Take care.
All right, see you, man.
See ya.